We'll do a review in Likutei Sichos in Chelek of Gimel. This is volume 23, and we're doing the third Sicha on the Parsha of Shelach. It's a Rashi Sicha. It discusses, the Pasuk says that the Yidden tested Hashem 10 times. And the question is, which are these 10 times? The Rebbe brings down the various differences between the way it's brought down in the Gemara, the way it's in Ovis the Rabnosen, and the way the Rambam. And the Rebbe is trying to figure out why Rashi learns the way he does, specifically, as the Rebbe explains, because this fits with the idea that this has been a test. It's not just that the people have sort of complained and rejected Hashem, but it's actually a test in which Hashem, on one hand, was showing them miracles, and then they twisted it around even within the miracles, as we'll see, as the Rebbe will explain. But Medaf Halten Kop, you have to hold, because there are 10 things over here and they change around. But the Rebbe sums it up. So we'll go step by step. Aleph. From Posik Vayinasu Oisi Ze Eser Pamim. And the Eibishter says they tested me for 10 times. And Lenin Ob Chazal, our sages of blessed memory, learn from this as Asora Nisyonis Nisu Avisenis HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bamidbar, that there were 10 tests that our father tested Hashem in the Midbar. And of course, that's also in Pirkei Avos, in Perik Hey Mishnah Dalet, as the Rebbe says. And the Pasuk, which are exactly Bamidbar and the Midbar. And the question is, which are these 10 tests? So, wegen the Asora Nisyonis, with regards to these 10 tests, yeah, the Rebbe is going to first bring down the others, and then the Rebbe is going to bring the Rashi. Yafit meant Kama Deis. We find several opinions. And the Rebbe is bringing down some of them. Number one, Aleph, the Masechta Arochim. Masechta Arochim, it says as follows: Shnayim Bayam. As we'll explain in a minute, when they were faced with the Yam Suf, the Yidden said that, is there no graves in Mitzrayim? And then when they were going up from the Yam, they also complained. The Rebbe will bring it down in a minute. Ushnayim b'mayim, there's 2 times that the Yidden tested Hashem with regards to water. First, the water was bitter in Morah, and then later on, they didn't have any water, where Hashem gave them the Be'er Shel Miriam. And then we had B'mon, you have Shnayim, you have 2. As we will see, the Rebbe will bring down in a minute. First of all, they left over and they went on Shabbos to collect. Then Bislov, we find the story of the slov of the birds that the Yidden wanted to meet. Once it's recorded Achaz Be'egel, and once it's in Shmois, and the other time we find it in Parshas Bamidbar. There's 2 of them. And we'll see later on, according to some portion, this was really the same. But this is the way the Gemara says. And then finally, you have Achaz Be'egel. One, they made the Egel. Achaz Be'midbar Poron, and one that they had the Meragli Be'midbar Poron. The Rebbe teaches out now these old cases from the Gemara. With the Gemara is there noch mefared that the Gemara specifies later on. Shnayim B'yam. 2 of them were by the Yam. So the Achas Mehem, Achas B'yirida, one of them was when they were descending into the Yam. The Yidden said, Hamibli in Kvorim b'Mitzrayim, is there no graves in Egypt? Why did you bring us over here into the desert? That was before they knew that they were going to be saved, that the sea was split for them, but they didn't complain. That's one. But V'achas B'aliyah, there was one as they were going up. It brings down that Kishem, they said that Kishem Sha'onu Oilim, mitzad zeh. They saw that they are going up from one side. Kach mitzrim mitzad achad. The mitzrim must be going up on the other side, and they were still scared of them. So it wasn't really like they felt that they were safe. So that's another complaint. And what is the shnayim? So these are the shnayim b'yam. What are the shnayim b'mayim, by the water? So there's one's b'mora, as we said before. They came to Mora, the water was bitter, and he threw in the stick, and they sweetened the water. And then it was birifitim. They didn't have water again. They complained, and that's when they got the Beira Shel Miriam. Then Shnayim b'mon, twice was by the mon, because the Eibishter tells them al teitzu. They shouldn't go out on Shabbos, and by Yetzu they went out. He also tells them al teisiru, not to leave over, by Yisir left over. So that's two. And then Shnayim b'slov, two times by slov. Slov rishon, the parshas b'shalach, the first slov of the portion b'shalach. Uslav sheni, the parshas b'aloischa, and this slov sheni, the second one in parshas b'aloischa, which we have the second slov over there. And then finally you have Egel Midbar Paron, the Egel, the golden calf that they built, and the Midbar Paron, which is the Meraglim. So these are the 10, as the Gemara enumerates from the it says that the 10 in the Gemara in Sechtarach. So we have the 10. Now in Ovis the Rabbi Nosson state, in the Ovis the Rabbi Nosson, it states a little different. The Asora Nisyoines Zainen, what are the 10 tests? Chet ha'egel, you have the sin of the egel. It says Vayitzma Shom Ha'om L'mayim. So the egel that we had before also, and the water was thirsty. That's the refidim. Only the second one, not the one by Mora, but in the refidim when they were, and that's when they got the Be'er Shel Miriam. But it doesn't count the one of Mora, where the water was bitter. Then Imru al Yamsuf, they rebelled by Yamsuf. It counts one. Over here, it doesn't mention Aliyah and Yerida, just that there was a rebellion by Yamsuf, and that is before they went into the Yamsuf, Hamidli and Kvarim, and they wanted to go back. And Meraglim, that's we have according to all of them. Then it says Toflu al Hamon. They complained about the Mon, and that's a new one. We didn't have that before. Then we have Machlakusay Shel Koirach. We also haven't mentioned that before, the argument from Koirach. And then we have Slov, one by Slov, and not the two by Slov, as read before. Well, the Drei Nisyones and the 3 tests, which the Pasuk says, the Pasuk, when it recounts that the Yidden were making Hashem angry, so the Pasuk says there, so what are these 3 things that the pasuk means? Taveira means misoinanim, or the even more like misoinanim, parsha ma'aloischa, vayiyom ki misoinanim, and b'masa means the Likita Samon, when they were collecting the Rebbe is questioning this in the Hora exactly what it means. And then we have Kibras HaTaiba, Slov Sheni was the second Slov, that Kishom Kovru Mamis Abi. So in any event, he has a different 10 than we learned before. So to sum up, what's the difference counting of the Gemara and the Ovis that I'm Nosson? So he says like this, Loit der Deya, according to the opinion of Ovis that I'm Nosson, so we also include and Maisa Koinach, and also Tofel Alamon. These are the 3 that are not mentioned in the Gemara. So those are the 3 extra of the Gemara. And then, but on the other hand, which are not counted. So we have these extra 3. They're nisoyim for mayim b'mora, the one of the that the Yidden were complaining the water was bitter, when they came to Mara. And then Ein Nisoyin Bayam, in the Gemara in Arachin, we have two Nisyonis, one going up, one going down. That's not in the opposite of Muslim. On Ein Nisoyin B'mon, and also by the Mon, we're not counting one that they left over and that they went out on Shabbos, but we count it all as one. So we bring in three. We bring in the Misoinanim, Koirach, and Tofla Lamon, and we take out the only one Mayim B'mara, one Nisoyin B'yam, not the one that they said like we're going up. They're also going up, and also only one test by the Mon, not two tests. So these are all the difference between the Gemara and the Ovis that I'm lost. And then we have another opinion, Gimel, and we're going to bring down the opinion. Then we're going to try to see how Rashi says and why Rashi chooses to say what the 10 Nisyon is. That's going to be the Sikha. Gimel, number 3. The Rambam, the Pirush HaMishnayis Shaloi, the Rambam in his commentary on the Mishnayis, Rechem de Asora Nisyonis, what does he count into Nisyonis? So he counts one by the Yam Suf. And then he says, Mora, that's the, when the water was Mora, he does not count to the Fidim. And then he says, Bakoshas Hamon b'Midbar Sin. The Yidden were requesting the Mon in Midbar Sin. They didn't have what to eat, so they were complaining. Then Alti Siru Altetsu, he counts 2 for the Mon about. One was the complaint about the Mon, but then don't leave over and don't go out by Shabbos. And then, in addition to the Mori, he brings down the Mayim Birfidim now, which is the Yidden didn't have water to drink, and he gave them the water of Miriam through the rock. And then you have Maisa Ha'egel, the act of the Egel. Then you have Tave'era, with the Eibishter burnt in them, Kivres, which is Misoinanim. That's the complaint of the Misoinanim. And then you have Kivres Ataiva, Kisham Kovra Misam, which is the Slav. And the order of the Meraglim. So to sum it up, how is this different than the previous one? According to this opinion, we're adding over the ones we already counted for Orchim. So first we have the Chet Hamis Oinanim of the complainers, which is essentially also brought down in the Ovis that I'm nosen. But compared to the Gemara Brachas, we add here the complaint, the Sin of Misoinanim. Und euch was ihnen haben gebeten dem Mann. This is the third thing that they requested them on. So these are 2. Unashdot zei, and instead of them, he's a mashmit ein nisoyin bayam. So he takes out one test by the yam, doesn't bring down the 2 shnayim bayam, which the Orchin says in the Gemara. Un ein nisoyin by slav, he doesn't bring 2 nisoyin, it's only 1 nisoyin by slav. So this meantime, we have the Gemara Arachin, we have others that have nosen, and we have the Rambam. And the next, we'll see what Rashi says, and we'll see why Rashi chose that which he chose. Ois base. So Rashi, Bipirush al HaTorah, Rashi in his commentary on the Torah from Posik, on the verse Zeh Serpamim, these 10 times, is Mefarish. And Rashi says like this: Shnayim b'yam, 2 at sea. Ushnayim b'mon, and 2 by the mon. Ushnayim b'slav, and 2 with the slav. B'chulu, etc. K'di'iso b'mesech sarachim, as we find in Mesech Arachim. V'didei in Arach, as the opinion in the Arach, the Gemara Arach. Dos was Rashi b'derech hapshat. The fact that Rashi, in the style, when he learns literally, can it onem and the day from others that have nosen is moving. Why he cannot accept the opinion of others that have nosen is understood. While the zwei nisyonis for Maisa Koidach and Tofla Alamon, these two tests of what Korach fought against Hashem and that they complained about the Mon, seinen vorgekommen, they took place nochum Chet HaMeraglim. They took place after the sin of the Meraglim. Welcher is der Nesoyin HaAsiri. That was the 10th, the final one. And these took place after. Vibald Azvei Nasu Oisi Zeser Pa'omim is gesagt geworden da by the Meraglim. Because this, that they have already tested me 10 times, was said by the Meraglim. This is the 10th time over here. So the further tests that follow later on are besides these 10 already here. So Rashi cannot learn like the Avos the Reb Nosson that it's talking about the Mon or the Korach, because that took place later on. Therefore, we have to understand Ravos named on Rashi, which is Pshut Shel Mikra. Why does Rashi accept who is the literal translation of the verse, the day of Mesechta Arachim, the opinion of Mesechta Arachim, unit via Srechen Zei the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos, and not the way the Rambam counts it in his commentary of the Mishnah. And Rebbe explained. Now, was Rashi rechot nit bakoshas hamon als nisoyin. In the Rambam, he counts also that the asking of the mon was a test because Rashi doesn't count it. Is moving, we understand. While Rashi, because according to Rashi, which is Pshuta Shel Mikra, simple meaning of the pasuk halt, is of the view as lechem sha'alu kohigen, as Rashi brought down. They asked for bread, that was proper. When the Rebbe said the Farge gave them mon, and that's why when Hashem gave them mon, he gave them derech chiba in the morning in a way of love, of dearness to them. The Rebbe, that's why, because it was asked properly. Rashi, Slovo Rishon, and over there in the place when Rashi talks about the first slov was Basar Shalu Shalek Yohigan, the meat they asked improperly. So you see, that's why Rashi can't say that. Aber we still need to understand Aleph, Chet HaMisoinim, the son of the Misoinim, werd befeders der Zelt in the Chumash. That's very clearly related in the Chumash. Why doesn't Rashi count that one? And the other question is, on the other hand, Rashi should not technically count the second Nisoyin B'Yam, because the Nisoyin Hasheni B'Yam Ba'aliyah, the second testing by the Yam, when they went up, Vert nit dermont im Pshut Shel Mikra. That's not mentioned in the literal meaning of the pasuk. We don't find in the pasuk a complaint when they were going out. On the contrary, Ba'adrab, we don't find it. We see from Pirush Rashi in Parashas B'Shalach, from Rashi's commentary in the portion of B'Shalach, Shepoton Hayom al Sfosei, that the sea has expelled them and threw the Egyptians onto the edge. Kidei, in order they shouldn't say Yisrael Kshem She'onu Chulu Kachem. They shouldn't say, just like we are going up, they're also going up. And that's why Hashem did that, but it doesn't say that they said it. It says that they shouldn't say it. Is Muchach Shutz evident. As Rashi nimmt on, that Rashi accepts, as Bepoil is not given Kenisoim Baliosom Minayom, that actually there wasn't a test when they came up from the Yam. So why does Rashi count that as two by the Yam, and why does Rashi not bring down Misoinim? When Rashi is Mefarish Pshutei Shel Mikra, since Rashi explains the literal meaning of the pasuk, he should have counted Misoinim, and not to count a second test by the Yam. But das is Kipirush Rambam. That fits with the interpretation of the Rambam. Velcherechem v'lois nisyonos, as the Rambam writes, he only counts in nisyonos was kulom divrei akosovim. They're all words of the pasuk. Unitki these Masechet Arochim, but Rashi says like in Masechet Arochim. Why did Rashi choose the Rambam? And why did he choose Masechet Arochim and not the Rambam, which the Rambam seems to be fitting more Pshudish Mikra? That's what the Psukim say befedish. An additional issue, or the other way would also be Bibal, the Rashi Rechon Shnaim Biyam, since Rashi does count 2 Biyam, Kumtoi, so it turns out, as zusammen mit dem Chet HaMisyonim, his Divrei HaKosov, together with the sin of the complainers, which is part of what the pasuk says. So there were already 11 at the time of the Mechet HaMeraglim when he said, when Hashem says upon him, there was already 11 because there was the Chet HaMisyonim, which is befedish in the parsha. Gimel. We also need to explain in the beginning of Elu Hadvorim over there, Rashi also brings down that Moshe Rabbeinu was rebuking them by way of a remes, reminding them all of the bad things that they're doing. So the Ovid Ramnoson connects this to the 10 things, but Rashi seems to make it separate, as the Rebbe points out now. Further needs to explain. In Ovid the Ramnoson Farbinten, in Ovid the Ramnoson he ties Kama v'Kama for the Asor and Nisyonis. Many of the 10 Nisyonis, mitten Posik with the verse, Eila Hadvorim Asher Diber Moshe Gomer, that this is in the beginning of the Chumash Dvorim, this is the words that Moshe spoke, saying, Bamidbar, Ba'arava, Gomer v'Dizoh, in the Midbar, in the Arava and Dizoh, and that Posik ties the rebukes to the things that Moshe Rabbeinu is mentioning them. Isaiah ver nirmas, that they are hinted in the Nemen was werden dort ausgerechnet in Posik, in the names that the Posik mentions in Elad Vorim. Al derech zeh is Faran Aman the Omar in Sifri. Similar to this, connecting it to the Posik, there is an opinion in Sifri as the Allah Asor Nisyonis, that all of these 10 tests in Meseches Arochim that are numerous Arochim based by Yam Kulu, seine merumas in the Posuk now are hinted in that Posuk. Now, on Azoi learned Rashi. Rashi also learns as their Posuk Elad Vorim Goylimu is Koilel Divrei Chetechachas, that it includes words of rebuke. That he enumerates here all the places that the Yidden made anger before Hashem. And then Rashi details the sins that are hinted over here. And then he says, this is the language. Bamidbar, Bamidbar, that which they angered him in the Midbar. Sha'amru, and they said, Miyitein Museinu, the Goymer, who would give that we will die in the desert. And then we have, which is related to the water, in Parshas B'Shalach. And then he brings down Barova B'Shula Arova Shechotu B'Baal P'Oir. In the Arova that they sinned by the Baal P'Oir, that was at the end, in which they went within the Moabite women and they with Avodah Zorah. And then it says Moel Suf Al Mashe Hibru B'Yamsuf. They rebelled by Yamsuf. And Ben Purim Ben Teufel V'Lova and Zoktrasha Tofel Al Amon Shu'Ulavan. They complained on the man which is white. B'Midbar Porna the Amarag Midbar Mizrag Ragnu B'Chatzeres B'Machlakus Shel Koydach. That represents the argument of Koydach. But Dizov, that's Hegel. So if he's that, so according to all these things Rashi mentioned, it turns out as in them posting b'dvorim when gerechet nit zelbi kenyonim, that in the posting and dvorim they don't count there the same matters with the asor nisyonim Masechet Arochim, that the 10 tests of the Masechet Arochim was Rashi brings the Parsha Senikin, which Rashi brings down on our Parsha. The Artman Hoben Abiyur, so we need an explanation. Pavos lernt nit Rashi with the Mandomer is free, or the Rabbis that Rabnosn. How come Rashi does not learn as the opinion is free, or not Rabnosn as the Divrei Tachochas for Moshe Rabbeinu, that these words of rebuke from Moshe Rabbeinu, Zani B'Shayches to the Zelke Chatoim, they are connected to the same sin on which Hashem was rebuking the Eden. The Eden zogendik by Naso is Eser Pa'amim. They tested me 10 times. So according to Rashi, by Naso is Eser Pa'amim, those are the things mentioned in the Gemara Arochim, those 10 things. But the Eila Dvorim, we just quoted, Rashi mentions other things, and not necessarily these things. But Rashi could have sort of conformed these both Pesukim, that when the Pasuk is saying the Divrei Teichoche, he would be talking about the same Divrei Teichoche as the Pasuk said, Naso Yisrael Pa'amim, instead of being different. And there's a Mandomer Sifri that actually ties to the Pesukim, the remes to the exact 10 things that took place that the Gemara says in Arochim. And the Rabbi Nosson says some of the connections between them. So why Rashi separates it and brings it down as totally separate? Then Dalit, the Rebbe is going to ask a question on the language that Rashi does bring down, and why Rashi chooses the wording the way Rashi brings it down. Dalit. In Loshe Rashi be Parsha Seinu Gufa is that move on. In Rashi's language, in our Parsha itself is not understood. Aleph, number one. Bibal the Rashi is Saivin mit maitik bipirush alatz nisyonis. Since in his commentary by us, he does not quote in his commentary all the 10 nisyonis. Nor erzok, but he says as there was vil visum biprotius. He says if you want to know specifically details, that's not important to the simple meaning over here. The far bring to that's why he doesn't bring it here. So he says, if you want to know, can as wissen from Masechet Arochim. You can know it from Masechet Arochim. This from Masechet Arochim. Avos rechnet, is 6 von sie und schreibt nicht Bekitzer. Why does he count 6 and doesn't write Bekitzer? Shnaim b'yam v'chulu kedis and Masechet Arochim. 2 at the Yam, as we find in Masechet Arochim.